Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. The California sun spilled through the glass as stood in the shadows of Los Angeles, watching Holden from across her coat collar was high, sunglasses masking the weight of her gaze. Holden sat across from a man didn't recognize, but the intensity of their conversation told her it wasn't casual. She was sure this was Kane's private investigator. Holden had been avoiding questions about Lily Winters for weeks, and now here he was, handing over a flash drive like he was making a deal with the devil. His fingers tightened around her phone as she snapped a photo from afar. Something was wrong, and she could feel it deep in her bones. Holden passed the flash drive and leaned in, voice low. "Tell Kane this proves what Victor's done. He wanted leverage. He's got it, but it comes at a cost." Didn't hear the words, but she could read Holden's expression. Fear, guilt, and urgency, all signs of a man dragged deeper than he intended. Meanwhile, back in Genoa City, Kane's hands trembled as he clicked the video footage from the drive. Lily's face flashed on screen, frightened, pale, trapped. Behind her and Charlie sat frozen on the hotel bed, clearly being held against their will. The room was dim, no windows, but unmistakably real. A timestamp and location flashed in the corner. It was undeniable. Victor's message came moments later, a single photo on Kane's phone, Lily bound at the wrist sitting upright on the floor beside her kids. The caption was short, ready to negotiate. Kane's jaw clenched. He tried everything, calling in investigators, even appealing to, but Victor had made it clear, if he wanted his family back he had to give enterprises over, no questions asked. Kane leaned over the desk at Society's private lounge, drained and furious. There was no victory in this deal, only surrender, and surrender he did. But what he didn't know was that Summers had been listening from the adjacent room. She hadn't spent months fighting for power, only to watch Kane hand it all back to Victor in a moment of weakness. Enterprises was within reach, and if Kane wasn't willing to protect their leverage, she would do it herself. Picked up her phone and dialed the one person who could help her stop Victor's plan cold. Billy. He was just as invested, perhaps more. Running Chancellor meant everything to Billy now, especially since it was the one place where he felt he could outshine his family. If Kane gave in to Victor, everything they'd built would be torched. Billy arrived within the hour, tension in his stride, his blue eyes stormy with anticipation. If Kane folds, everything goes down the drain. Poured 2 drinks and handed him one, then we don't let him fold. Together they plotted, while Kane prepared the legal documents and Billy coordinated with their own team, lawyers, hackers and intermediaries to freeze the transfer. Billy would intercept the Chancellor deal and would file a legal injunction claiming new information had come to light regarding fraudulent control. The plan was messy, high stakes and reeked of betrayal. But it was their only shot. In another corner of Genoa City, Sharon sat in her kitchen, clutching a letter from her daughter had run, taken and fled without explanation. Guilt flooded Sharon's heart. She had seen the signs, had been unraveling for weeks. Devon Winters had sensed it too. The moment disappeared, he and sprang into action. Together with Detective Burrow, they launched a private investigation. A trail of security footage and hotel receipts led them to Los Angeles. Within hours, they were on a private jet hunting down's path. But was already adjusting course. She had sensed the net closing in. Within the backseat of a rented SUV, she cut across, veering away from major highways. She had meant to leave the country, but not like this. Now she was improvising. Back in Genoa City, confronted Jack over dinner, her heart aching from the web Victor had spun. She had stood by him for decades, but this, using children to force a deal, was something else entirely. Jack listened patiently, pouring her a second glass of wine as the snow fell softly beyond the patio doors. "You don't owe him your silence," Jack said, "not anymore." As the fireplace flickered, found herself leaning closer. She didn't know what she wanted from Jack, only that he saw her in a way Victor no longer did. When Jack gently brushed a hair from her cheek, she didn't pull away. But someone else was watching. Had walked into the home at just the wrong moment and froze at the sight before her, her husband and lit by firelight tangled in some half-embrace, her face hardened. In the back of her mind could already hear the whispers, the betrayal. February 13 approached fast and so did the chaos. Billy, meanwhile, tried to keep things from exploding with Sally Spectra. They had been on edge lately, corporate wars, secrets, lies, but Valentine's Day gave Billy an excuse to try again. He whisked Sally away to a private suite in the cabin, wine and candles waiting, along with a handwritten note he'd agonized over. It worked, at least for the night. Adam had similar plans. Chelsea had been distant lately, overwhelmed by issues and her own insecurities, but Adam remembered the little things, the painting she'd always paused to admire at the art gallery, the song she never skipped on their shared playlist. His Valentine's gift was a private showing of that painting, on loan for one night, hung in their living room. Chelsea broke down in tears. But not everything was so romantic. Noah landed in Los Angeles with one thing on his mind. Sienna, she left a note behind, cryptic, cold, final, but Noah wasn't ready to let her go. When he found her in her off, Sienna stood and glared. "I told you not to come." "I couldn't help it," Noah said. "You told me not to follow you, but my heart never left." She rolled her eyes, but her lips trembled. Outside, snapped photos from her car, so many players, so many secrets, and still no answer about why Holden had met with Keynes. Hands trembled slightly as she sent the photo to her burner phone's encrypted drive. She hadn't anticipated this. Her goal was to track Holden and gather intel on Victor's supposed operations, not witness Noah making desperate, romantic speeches to a woman who clearly didn't want to be found. But everything in Los Angeles was beginning to blur together. Everyone was connected, whether they realized it or not. Holden had vanished after his meeting with the pie, assumed he was avoiding questions, but there was one place she hadn't tried yet, a small art gallery in Monaco he used to frequent. If Holden was hiding something, it was there. Back in Genoa City, the war for enterprises had taken a bloody turn. Summers paced the Grand Phoenix suite as the news trickled in. The injunction had gone through. Kane was furious, having learned of the betrayal, but Billy had played his part beautifully, meeting with the board under the guise of an emergency vote, flipping key investors to back there. They had stalled the handover just long enough. Victor was livid. His meeting with Adam on the train had been brief but intense. Adam had tried to calm his father, but Victor was past negotiation. "They want a war," Victor had said, "so I'll give them one." Adam tried to refocus him. "We need to get Lily and the kids out of that hotel. This has gone too far." Victor turned his steely eyes toward his son. They were never in danger, just isolated, long enough to rattle Kane. But even Adam couldn't ignore the ethical rot of the plan. The photos, the implication of abduction, the manipulation, it had gone too far, even for a. While Victor orchestrated his next move, fumed quietly in the estate, Jack hadn't apologized, hadn't backed off, and had no intention of letting her marriage collapse without a fight. But she would fight in her own way. She leaked a photo of and Jack from the previous night, slightly blurry but intimate enough, to a tabloid contact under an alias. By morning, former lovers reignite, and Jack's night-in made waves through Genoa City's digital gossip mill. Victor saw the headline and snapped his phone in half. Meanwhile, Devon Winters and Detective Burrow landed in California. Their lead-on had taken them to a truck stop outside of. A waitress confirmed seeing a redhead with a baby, looked tired, panicked, and paid in cash. They were close. Had ducked into a roadside motel by nightfall, fussing in her arms. Her phone buzzed once, Sharon, then again. She didn't respond, but the pressure was getting to her. She couldn't stay off-grid forever. The weight of motherhood, fear, and guilt was becoming unbearable. She scribbled something in her notebook. "If they find me, I'll say it was just a vacation, just needed space. I can spin this." She didn't believe it. Finally located Holden at the Monaco Gallery. He was alone, surrounded by half-finished canvases, whiskey in one hand, flash drive in the other. "What are you doing here?" he asked when she appeared. "You lied," she snapped, "about Lily, about everything." Holden shook his head. "I did what I had to do. Kane deserved the truth." "That wasn't your truth to give." They stood inches apart, the tension sharp, finally asked, "What else is on that drive?" Holden hesitated. "There's audio of Victor talking to one of his people, not just about Lily, but about how he might use the child to push Devon into backing his next play." His stomach dropped. "You need to go public," she said. "I can't," Holden whispered. "If I do, Victor will destroy me." "Then I will." Across the country, Noah had finally begun breaking through Sienna's walls. She hadn't smiled in days, but something about Noah's consistency, his complete, embarrassing devotion, warmed her resolve. "I left for a reason," she confessed. "I don't care, I'm here for every reason you stayed away." That night, Noah staged a pop-up art show on a rooftop, renting floodlights, framing her unfinished pieces from months ago, inviting no one but her. A single table sat in the center with wine, candles, and a handwritten sign, "No gallery without the artist." Sienna cried. It wasn't grand, it wasn't flashy, but it was real. Elsewhere in Genoa City, Chelsea found herself stunned as Adam guided her blindfolded into their penthouse. The painting she adored was mounted above the fireplace, a note below it, "You saw this before me, now I'll never see anything without you." Chelsea kissed him like it was the first time. Billy's evening with Sally had gone equally well, though by morning he'd be gone. The corporate storm was escalating and his phone buzzed non-stop. Sally knew she wasn't his top priority, she just didn't expect the drop-off to be so sudden. Victor retaliated fast. He called dinner with the state attorney's office, launching a formal investigation into financial misconduct at Chancellor Winters. It was a bluff but a powerful one. Board members began to sweat. Even Billy wasn't sure how long they could keep it together. Everbold scheduled a press conference claiming they had evidence of Victor's unethical manipulation of his own family. She dared Victor to deny it. The media swarmed. But it was who ended up being the story. The press caught wind of the missing child. By the time Devon arrived at the motel, reporters were camped outside, opened the door slowly, was asleep. "I didn't take him to hurt anyone," she said softly. I needed him to be mine again." His eyes brimmed with tears. Devon said nothing. They didn't scream, they didn't threaten, they just held out their arms. Surrendered. Later that evening, Sharon met at the precinct. No bars, no formal charges, just grief and love. "You scared me," Sharon whispered. "I scared myself." In the gallery sent the Victor audio too. 1 hour later, it hit the web, an anonymous leak, but no one had to guess where it came from. Victor paced his office, cornered at last. He had overplayed. For the first time in a long time, the great Victor had underestimated his opponents. Kane, now awake and bruised from a drunken fall, read the headlines and watched statement live on TV. "You played me," he muttered, realizing the betrayal. Billy stared out his office window, knowing he'd taken the spotlight and the risk for both of them. And somewhere on that quiet Los Angeles rooftop, Noah and Sienna danced under the stars, the city glittering beneath them. Love, power, betrayal, redemptions. All tangled, all unfinished. But for now, peace, however temporary, settled like dusk across both cities.